Hey there. Welcome to today's book club. Before we start the episode, I do want to give a quick disclaimer slash trigger warning that the book we are covering, The Myth of Sisyphus, does talk about a sensitive topic of suicide. So if you are not comfortable with that topic, you can feel free to skip today's episode, or you can also just listen to the episode. And if you start hearing us, going towards that sensitive topic in our discussion, feel free to skip those parts. Completely up to you. But with that, let's get started. Hello, welcome to Book Club. Today, me and the guys, we are tackling the end of the Myth of Sisyphus, the absurd creation portion of the book. First try, I promise. Um, but yeah, so no, I mean, like usual, I know we're all really excited. I'm also really excited because that means we get to spin the wheel at the end of this.
Spin the
So,
wheel.
it's gonna be a
Oh,
hype
better. I like that
episode.
one better.
Wheel. Okay,
Wheel,
yeah.
Wheel.
wheel.
Okay, yeah. So it's gonna be great. This is gonna be a great episode. But before we get into it, of course, like always, how you been, boys? It's been a little bit now, a couple weeks, a little bit more.
It's been a couple weeks. Anybody want to go first?
I can go first. I've been traveling. I went to New Orleans and to California and had a great time at both of them. One was a bachelor's party for my boy, my longest friend from kindergarten, and then two of my
that's
friends from high school. So that was really clutch.
Beautiful.
See some
Beautiful.
old
Crazy.
homies.
From
Yeah, I know.
kindergarten.
Right?
You guys like
That
went to the
guy's
same
like,
high school and everything, and like it just
yeah,
y'all separated.
we went to the same like kindergarten, obviously, and then like most of elementary school. We met back up in middle school. He remained friends with me all throughout the time we weren't going to school together, and then we ended up at the same middle school and then high school. So yeah, I've known him for a fat minute. He's a really, really close friend of mine. And so cool to go to his bachelor's party. New Orleans was a lot of fun. If Quentin, if you're watching this, I know for a fact you're not, but if you are, I'm sorry. But the other time we were in New Orleans, it wasn't it, bro. This one though, this one was fun. We went to like some jazz bars. We had some beignets. We had some gas Cajun food. I like New Orleans.
You go to like Caesar's Palace.
Yes, of course we did.
Link Quentin's socials in the description.
Yeah, so you can go harass him. But we lost money, except two people didn't lose money, and one of them was the groom. So I'd say that was a pretty good. Exactly. And I lost my money very quickly, but luckily the groom and the other guy were playing so well that I got to wait around long enough to get a free drink. So it was all worth it. It was all worth it. Yeah.
Anyone else, David? When you been up to?
Sure. Well, in all honesty, I think these past 2 weeks I've kind of been thrown off of my regular mojo. I got a little sick 2 weeks ago, and that kind of snowballed into me not getting into my normal routine. But with that being said, the past few days have been kind of slowly getting back on track. So we're getting there, getting back on the grind, back on the track. A little bit of a detour, but we're back on the path. So yeah, still gonna be working on the new evolution to the business, the photo room that's coming back online, and yeah, that's basically it for me. Just working and doing that and hanging out with friends. So nothing crazy.
No, that's good. Just like Sisyphus, right, David? Getting off the path, getting distracted.
Yeah, just like
Just like
Sisyphus.
Sisyphus, right? Yeah, you agree?
We always return back. We always return back.
Yeah.
I know, David. You know about Sisyphus, David.
Yeah, I know everything about Sisyphus. Like I read the whole book, appendix included.
Appendix too. Wow.
Yeah, wow, that's crazy.
You did extra homework.
Credit. Yeah.
For our audience and anybody who's listening, if there is anybody listening, I actually forgot to read the last 5 pages, so they're gonna be putting me on blast.
Wow.
What a silly.
I didn't forget. I actually just neglected it completely because I thought, oh, I know the myth of Sisyphus. I'll be all right.
That's actually wild.
There can't be anything new contained in these pages.
I mean, he would totally just
surely
copy
not.
the entire myth from.
He's
adding a character context. That's what it was.
Hey, speaking of hanging out with friends, you're gonna hang out with some pretty cool friends tomorrow.
I am hanging out with some pretty cool friends and playing some. Friends. I'm gonna cosplay some wizards, LARP wizardry.
Yeah, play Halo Reach.
Halo Reach.
I'm
Tony Hawk Skater Pro.
I'm
You're-
so excited for Halo Reach.
You're excited for Reach? I'm excited for
I'm
Reach
very
too.
excited for Reach.
I think my Xbox controllers are supposed to arrive today. I really, really hope they come in. If they don't, I'm gonna be very sad.
It'll be sad times.
Surely they'll come in by tomorrow, though. If they don't come in today,
You ordered from Amazon?
yeah, no, I ordered them off eBay.
Oh, you ain't seen that stuff for
That's
a
a
minute,
gamble
bro.
right there.
Yeah.
Saturday's the
you
end
might
of the
be wrong.
range, so it needs to go. I want to check it right now, actually, so bad, but we're in the middle of something, so I'll look after.
Yeah, you gotta work on your patience, anyways. It's all good.
True.
All right,
We all
continuing
need a
to
little
Connor.
I've just been working. I did have this past weekend off, which was nice. Hung out with some friends.
Pretty
David.
cool friends, huh?
Yeah, cool friends. You're hanging out with them.
Yeah. Me, David, and Matt, and their girlfriends. We all went to Galveston.
What
And,
the heck?
Seth, you
You
weren't
tell
cool enough.
me.
You ain't cool enough, bro.
You weren't even there.
I wasn't. I wasn't even in the
No,
state.
we went to Galveston to go to the Rainforest Cafe because that's the only Rainforest
Yo.
Cafe that has a ride.
Dude,
Hold on,
I've
got a
been to the
picture.
Rainforest Cafe since I was like a kid.
It has
Yeah,
a
It's
they had
like
a
a
they had
memory.
they had a whole ride. Yeah, there it is.
Whoa,
That's awesome.
That's sick.
It was
I'm
like one of
glad to
those
know that
river rides that just takes you along a cool little path and you just
dude,
take in the
what?
ambiance.
That's
It was actually so
cool.
worth it.
It was. We were
It
gonna eat
seems
there,
kinda
but we
sick.
ended up waiting about it was basically like a universal line waiting to get on
For
the
the
ride. We got on
ride?
yeah, just for the ride. We didn't even end up eating there. It was too late.
That's
hilarious.
crazy.
Yeah, we tried to go get a table, and they're like, "Actually, the kitchen's closed now. Sorry."
It's just a ride.
Dude, no
Shit.
way. The ride's open still, though.
So yeah, we went on the ride and then we went to the IHOP right next to it.
Dude, honestly, that's not terrible.
No,
No, that
it hit
sounds
the
so
spot.
fun.
Yeah.
Hit a Bucky's on the way home.
Hmm
Found
Oh,
out.
dude, that's
Okay.
an ultimate trip.
Yeah. Now I have a question for you guys. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Oh God, not this again.
Wait, Seth. This might be a dumb question, but do they have Bucky's where you're from?
Tennessee. That's a good question. No, I don't think they do, right?
I don't
Not
think they
Tennessee.
do, right?
They do. They used
They
to not.
do?
They used to not.
Okay,
They're
but back then when
guys.
you were younger,
Oh
did
yeah,
they have it?
no, it was brand new. Brand new when I
Okay.
came here. I remember I pulled up, it felt like I was at a space station. I was like, I didn't know this many gas pumps can be in one place. Like
It's pretty
this thing got its
crazy.
own exit. Like what? That blew my
Oh.
mind when I moved here.
It
But
is
they're
wild,
everywhere
actually.
now,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
I didn't realize it was. I thought it was like
Unfortunately.
still pretty in like a few states in the South.
Yeah, I thought it was like Whataburger, where it's just like
It's like all over the
Texas.
South now.
Man.
Dang, that's
They've
crazy.
But I
expanded.
think
Okay,
I mean,
then
yeah, they
Howie,
expanded. Yeah.
do you remember the Bucky's Mining Company? Like the little rocks in the
Yeah.
cart? See? I told you, David. I told you. It used to be a thing.
now
Yeah,
I know why you didn't
I
ask
know
me
this
that.
was
about
I
it.
like I
literally
have like a memory of like a logo, like saying like Bucky's Mining Co.
this is
Yeah.
literally a 25 minutes worth of a car ride conversation that we had coming back
This is
from
a
Galveston.
Mandela effect moment right now. It's not
Dude, it
real.
is.
Like
It
you're
It
is.
probably,
Dude,
it probably is not
he
real.
called his sister. They had to do some sleuthing. He couldn't even find
you
it for the
called
first
your
20.
sister?
I called
That's
my
the-
sister.
That's how
No,
deep it
dude.
went, bro.
It
It
went
was
deep.
it was deep. It went
No
real
one
deep.
fucking believed me.
He felt like a madman.
I wouldn't have believed you either,
Dude,
but I also have
low-key-
no reason to believe you.
See, the thing is, like, I feel like I'm like making it up, but like for some reason I do. Like
They
something
need
like a memory.
they needed you in that car, Howie.
Connor
I
needed
needed
you in
you.
that.
I needed you.
Connor and I remember the
When he
alternate
needed you the
reality that
most.
you guys don't. All right.
Dude, what?
So it's
Uh,
all right, Connor. I got you. I
That
was part of that
explains so
alternate
much.
reality too. It's all right.
Yeah.
That explains so much.
Well-
What explains what?
Don't worry about it. But it all makes sense now that you two are from somewhere else.
Yeah. But they
Two
didn't.
rival alien planets.
Yeah.
One of
Yeah,
one of
that's right.
rebellion, one of
Yeah.
capitalism.
We have a galactic war.
Same universe, just different planets.
That's
Yeah.
fire.
No,
How
and then
about-
that following Sunday we went and watched Harry Potter, the second movie in the movie theaters.
No invite to that is crazy. After
You
I
were
watched the
literally
first
and
one with you.
I checked your location and said, "Okay, Seth is in California. There's literally no point in me inviting him. He's gonna say no.
Oh,
He
I'm
literally
sorry.
cannot."
I'm sorry. No, I'm never
Honestly,
gonna watch the whole series. That was my boat. That's the
that was
only
the
way
only
I
way.
was gonna do it.
I ended up watching up to the 5th movie with Alexa.
Oh
Wow.
wait, that's crazy actually.
Yeah,
I
so I
think
That's
finished the
Nicole
crazy.
and I
Goblet of
got to
Fire.
the third or fourth movie and then we stopped.
I don't
What?
I
think
don't know what it
me
is.
and
Like you
Anna
just
are
can't
ever
finish the
even gonna
series. I don't know why.
begin the series, honestly. We
I
gotta
can
watch.
You never know.
Never
I
know.
can quote like the first 3 movies line for line. I swear to God.
Maniac.
Yeah, you were ripping them on the first one.
He probably
You
can.
were you
Howie,
were
if you think that's crazy, Howie, you should hear him on Skyrim.
Bro,
dude,
actually,
no.
I fully believe that. I
Dude, Connor
fully
got
believe it.
Skyrim for the PlayStation 2 because it was released on the PlayStation 2. That's how old it is.
He can quote the entire first section, the entire. I
Yeah,
think you
the,
can
the
quote up
entire
to.
intro.
I
Yeah.
might need to see that now. We might need to boot it up
Just
just to let that one
honor
rip.
it.
Just.
We you don't even have to boot it up. I could just do it
You
off
can
the
just do it
dome.
right now. We can have an entire podcast of Connor just reciting the
Just
entire
quoting
Reenact the whole
Skyrim.
Skyrim the whole
thing.
time. All
That's
right,
funny.
Howie, what's going on with you,
Yeah,
man?
last
Yeah.
best for last.
I haven't been nothing too crazy with me either. Honestly, very similar to David, where I've been injured a little bit the past like 2 weeks.
Ping pong
Where
injury?
yeah, I think so. I've like it's like the only thing I can really attribute it to. But like I went to the doctor because there was one night it was like really bad. Like I had to sleep on the couch so I could be propped up because when I tried to lay down, like I could breathe and stuff. Like when I did breathe, it like really hurt my side. Like I just couldn't do it.
What?
And
That's not
so
good.
That's
yeah, so
scary.
I went to the doctor the next day, and it turns out I have like some back spasms and like a really bad like neck shoulder spasm, as well as my joint around the right side of my rib cage is inflamed. And so
Damn.
yeah, so that was fun. I feel like a lot better now. But
That's
That's
good.
good to hear.
yeah, I played some today. I played like 20 minutes or
Getting back
so.
on your mojo, getting
Yeah,
back
I'm
on that
getting
path.
I
getting back
like
to
that
it.
he like can't lay down to sleep, but like the moment he feels better, he's back in the arena, like no hesitation. Like
Dude, it's yeah, like clearly there's like these a few guys there that are better than me, and like there's like three that I specifically think of that are just like the top there that like are usually
you
that
have to
are
beat
normally
him.
at tables, and like the thing is like I think I played better against them at one point, but or maybe I've gotten better and they're trying harder. I don't know, but like I've gotten to the point where I'm like seeing like like for example, like I got injured, I think, because I've gotten to the point where I can like slam the ball pretty like consistently.
Mm,
And so I'd be like swinging my arm out, I'd be like throwing it to get like power.
mm.
And they taught me a little bit that you're not really supposed to like swing it out there. You're kind of like supposed to have your like elbow bent and just kind of like hit it fast with technique and like the right angle. And
Whoa.
so that was something I've learned. So like that's kind of like what I've been trying to do. I've been trying to really get my like exactness of my technique down, like really just consistency, as well as getting my form right. So I feel like I've kind of gotten worse because I'm like playing outside my comfort zone, kind of like
Hmm.
changing the way I play.
But
But
it's like an investment.
yeah, it'll be like better in the long run. But
Yeah.
yeah, so but yeah, I don't have anything else. We're ready to get on into this.
I would
Dude,
like to start with saying what I thought again and what I got. What I
okay.
had originally thought this chapter was going to be about was a little bit more. I thought he was going to take more of a divine spin, kind of more spiritual sense of this
Hmm.
this during this
Yeah.
chapter. And for the first half, he definitely didn't do that. He does come around to it, but he got to it in a way that I didn't expect. Which, like I said earlier, I think 99% of this book, I didn't expect him to go down the path that he went to get to the
Mhm.
point that he got to. But this one especially was a real roundabout way to get there. And well, I do say that I'd say the first half resonated more with me because I understood it more. The second half did start to lose me a little bit because what was the word you used to describe it, Seth?
Ephemeral.
ephemeral.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of my original thought process on that and how it was gonna go. And I'm definitely happy with what I got as to what I had thought it would be like. It's definitely more fleshed out and there's more meat to this bone.
Yeah.
Dude,
I
I
mean,
honestly don't even know where to start here.
I know.
Art is a revolt against the absurd. That's where you start.
Dude, but I
Yeah.
think his whole point was that it's kind of not, right?
I don't know.
Well,
I got that art is a revolt. That's one of the big, I'd say the big key points that kind of came to
well,
me.
Yes. It's like creation,
true
like
art at least.
Yeah,
creating something
is a
because of
mime.
the meaninglessness of it, or the meaninglessness of it, and knowing it's meaningless, but still yet creating anyways because you're like, screw that. Yeah. Okay, I see that.
One big thing that he got that I definitely think gives weight to art being a revolt is creation is a great mime. Just
Yeah.
one of those things he just dropped right then and there with first, I think, second page of the chapter. Creation is a mime.
You think that's for revolting?
In a sense, yes, because what I understood from creation is a mime is a great mime. We can go back a little bit to where it says just a couple of sentences above that. It says, "All try their hands at miming, at repeating, and at recreating the reality that is theirs." I saw that kind of as a good callback to the actor, the absurd man, the
Yeah.
actor. Um, we always end up having we always end up by having the appearance of our truths. All existence for a man turned away from the eternal is but a vast mime under the mask of the absurd. Creation is the great mime. And I think it is a revolt in the sense of the absurdity of the creation, like you said, Howie, creating in this meaningless universe is inherently, well, meaningless.
So the way I understood it, but it actually ties in with what you're saying. I don't think I realized that at the time. But what I saw from like the Great Mime is like you try to like how like you mentioned before about like trying to recreate reality, right? And like miming is like you're almost like, for example, you're recreating being in a box. What you mime, even
Hmm.
though you're not actually in a box. It's not perfect. It's not exact. The best you can do is like try to recreate. And I think that's also been a big part of this whole creation part was like you can't actually recreate the experience. You can't recreate to the exactly. And I think that also ties into the meaninglessness, whatever. Um, but yeah, so basically, just like whenever that I was like, oh, okay, so he's saying that we're trying to recreate this reality that we can't possibly do, and isn't recreation isn't exactly real. But I do see that as being tied in with the revolt because you are like, despite you knowing you can't recreate exactly, and that might not, it's not actually real to some extent, you still create it anyways. You still try to mime it out, you still try to recreate it. And it I actually have a question from that now. For me, it wasn't like he was saying, I mean, clearly he's saying like creation, that's what people like, that's something someone who is absurd might
Hmm.
do. But and he probably is doing this, but I'm just curious to hear what y'all think. Because he never actually says you should go out there and start creating, right? He's just
Mhm.
like, people who are in the absurd create something, try to replicate it. Do you think he actually is telling us to go out there and recreate, or is he just trying to like explain a narrative in a sense? Like, is this something that he believes that we should do, or just something that he's saying like happens? You know what I'm trying to say?
I don't I don't think he's even I don't think he's actually necessarily saying that absurd men create things. If anything, I think he actually battles very early with the idea that an absurd creation is actually quite difficult to achieve,
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
and kind of trying to lay out. like how the absurd man would create. If anything, it almost feels like maybe we're touching on the end a little bit, Howie.
We're
But
actually
it feels
the
like
appendix is right there. I'm just
yeah,
saying.
he's trying to find a way to justify his creation of this book that we're reading right now as an absurd man. Like he needs to find a way to fit his desire to have created this piece of work into this framework of absurdity that he has ascribed to himself. And I think the revolt part is an important part of that, but I don't think it's touched on until later in the chapter. I
Mhm.
think earlier on he's more trying to talk about art as an experience. And I think a good direction for us to go is art as its relation to the artist, because I think that's something that in modern times is a discussion that a lot of people kind of waltz around but don't really dig into. And I have two quotes that I think have to do with that. I think first he says, "For the absurd man, it is not a matter of explaining and solving, but of experience and describing. Everything begins with lucid indifference." I think for him, the most important part of the absurd art is that it isn't trying to explain anything, right? And I think that's something that differentiates, I think, because not all music is art, in my opinion. Okay. I think there's music out there that I would not call art. And part of the reason I don't think it's art is because I think it's manufactured. It's actually created to explain something in a weird way. I always think of like commercialized hip hop because that's the area of pop music that I'm most familiar with. And in a weird way, there are a lot of philosophical beliefs that are echoed by Travis Scott and Lil Pump and you know Big X the Plug. And a way of living, right? A way that life is meant to be handled, with this masculine bravado and trust and loyalty is everything. And there's if you actually dig into it, it's actually a lot of explaining. Rap is in a weird way,
Yeah,
but I don't think that rap is art.
I'm glad you brought that up too, because I think he mentions it in here. He's like, music is like too mathematical,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um,
Yeah.
there is like that whole bit where it's like with the commercialized hip hop, like you mentioned, where they do like a specific beat because it's very pleasing to the human mind or something like that. And there's like 10 songs that have the same like RPM, and they're like in top tens of all time because of it, you know?
Yep. And that's
Yeah,
I would have a hard time calling that art. I think music
exactly.
can be art, but I think that the music that we would think of as art does depart from that idea, right? And I think the second one, the second one I wanted to bring up to kind of bring this idea. He says the idea of an art detached from its creator is not only outmoded, it is false. In opposition to the artist, it is pointed out that no philosopher ever created several systems. But that is true insofar, indeed, as no artist ever expressed more than one thing under different aspects. Um, and I think, again, with the rap example, the guy I always come back to when I think of separating art from the artist is Kanye. And I think like what this is saying is what he's saying is no artist ever expressed more than one thing under different aspects. So is that trying to tell me that graduation and the life of Pablo and Jesus is King are all trying to express the same idea to me? That like through Kanye's whole evolution as a person, there's one core concept of who he is that he's trying to get out. In a weird way, you can actually see, I'm getting really nerdy about this, but let me cook here
We're
and
here.
then I can open up the floor. You listen to Kanye's first album, he actually has a song called Jesus Walks. And it's actually about his faith with God, like an honest, open discussion of his faith with God. And it's always interesting to me because when he made the Christian album, people were so surprised. But he's literally been putting Christian like ideas and his own conceptions on what that religion is since the very beginning of his music. Which brings me all the way to the point where it's like does that mean that I'm kind of like that these ideas all tied to like who he currently is now, or is there something separate? How do you guys feel about the separation of the art from the artist?
I just want to say one thing really quick, and it has to do with kind of our last episode about how we were talking. I remember, I think Seth, you might have asked me this question, but it had to do with how I believe that each person had like one specific interest or like thing in their life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think this ties in very similar with that, where each person has like one specific thing, Kanye, for example. And what he's saying here about like music and art is that yes, it can be expressed very differently, but this general idea ties into this one person's specific thing. And I think another thing too is about like how, stuff might not, it appears like stuff doesn't make sense. He says something later on, I can't remember the exact line, but he says something later on about how like all of the works of like one person just don't seem to make sense, right? And at the end of their life, it all does make sense in one category of the fact that they all were like failures, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I think, yeah, I think he makes a good point of like you can find a general theme in a piece of art or in multiple pieces of art made by one person.
Yeah, he says on that note, he says, I like this a lot. He says, a profound thought is in a constant state of becoming. It adopts the experience of a life and assumes its shape. Kind of this idea that like you said, Howie, there's kind of a core idea. And also he says in this, I was really confused. He said that idea is the opposite of thought, which I thought was kind of an interesting concept. But if a profound idea is something that constantly is becoming, it's kind of like everybody has some profound idea that they might not be able to put into words, but like is shaped by their experience. And they might not be able to put it into words. Maybe they could put it into some art.
I mean, I did want to mention the sentence. You stopped a little early, I think, where he says, likewise, a man's sole creation is strengthened in its successive and multiple aspects, his works, and goes even further into that. And I think it definitely gives strength to the idea that ideas are different of thought. I do remember him saying the thought essentially being a window into the experience, because he also says that a little earlier about kind of going back to what you said. For the absurd man, it is not a matter of explaining and solving, but of experiencing and describing. Everything begins with lucid indifference. Experiencing and describing what I got is that itself is what gives, in his way of thinking, gives art more meaning. Instead of it being a whole story, it is more of a window in time, a window in a certain moment, and that implies a bigger experience, but in it itself is just, it begins there and it ends there.
Yes, so that's
Yeah.
where I was going to go with it, because like you look back towards like the Renaissance, right? All these artists have similar themes throughout like their paintings, sculptures, whatever, and it's all about like this whole rebirth. You can draw parallels to Da Vinci, to Michelangelo, to whoever. It's I think a separating the art from the artist is more of like a window in time, like we mentioned. I think it's an idea that's spread across multiple different people. It's not just one person. Because I can even say that with like I'm gonna nerd out with music a little bit too.
Yes.
But I listen to like a lot of punk music, if you can't tell by my appearance.
I don't judge
And
books by their
Audio
cover.
listeners hella confused.
Yeah, I guess is what is this guy look? Now
um,
they're going to come to
Yeah,
YouTube
you better check.
actually.
Hey, by the way, check
we're
out the
gonna
YouTube if you want
check
to
out the
see
YouTube,
Connor's
guys.
punk
Yeah,
rock
make sure to
appearance.
like and subscribe.
But like punk rock is all about like like anti-establishment, like anti-government, government's lying to you, like all this other shit, right? Big one is like Neck Deep. Throughout all of their music, it's a similar fucking theme. You know, it's all like, hey, Boris did this and Trump did this. You know, fuck these guys. You know, um, not saying any political stuff here, guys.
Yeah, no, who could misconstrue that as
No,
political?
No, I
completely
mean,
out of
these could be
context. Let's
completely
clip
different
that.
people. Yeah. But and then you can go over to like you know, they're not talking about direct politics, but you could go over to like Joyce Manor and he's talking about other bullshit stuff going on in society, or you know, fucking Hot Mulligan or something like that. You know, it's just it's a these people are all around the same time, but they're all talking about similar things. You know, it's another window into time. I don't know. That's what I was taking from it, like separating the art from
Yeah.
the artist.
A window into
What
a
was he saying?
window
I
into a
thought.
period of time for that person's profound thought,
Hmm.
like wherever it is in its time of becoming, you kind of pinpoint it. That's
It's
so
I kind of want to expand on that. It's not essentially just
yeah,
in my brain, not just a window in time. It's kind of a window to an idea at the time that that idea is being conceptualized
yeah,
or blossoming into whatever it's going to be.
Like
yeah.
historical context.
Yeah, because like I think if you ask me about some of the ideas I've expressed on this podcast already, like 3 or 4 years from now, I might have a totally different like conception or way to explain them. I might not even still agree with them, right? But the art stands. The art
Mhm.
exists. The art doesn't. It's once you've created it and you've stopped expanding upon it and stopped breathing life into it, it's frozen, and whatever idea, whatever state you were in emotionally at that time, it's locked into that moment, you know. Um, I
Something
like,
that I wrote down that I guess really spoke to me for some reason. With I mean, 'cause this is kind of going back to the whole creation thing, but I specifically wrote down creation is not an escape from the absurd, but a symptom of it. Something that came to my mind whenever he was talking a lot about creation and the absurdity of it and it being a mime of a reality. Something that came to my brain specifically was the Buddhist monk practice of, I think it's called mandala, and it's that practice where they create these beautiful geometric structures out of colored sand, all to just destroy it at the very end, to sweep it away, to get rid of it all the time, all the effort that was put into it. I mean, to me, that was something that was very similar to his idea of creation, in the sense that it I would say it's a little bit absurd there too. It's symbolic of the absurdness that he's really trying to get across, in that it's being created for naught. It's being created to essentially be destroyed, to I guess get a meaning out of it, to get a lesson out of it. In practice, it's more of a everything in the physical world is temporary, which aligns with the meaninglessness of everything, which
Yeah.
then aligns with the aspect of I want to move on to Kirillov, but to trading in that happiness for the divinity of your human condition.
Yeah, and it reminds you of a certain myth too, right?
I wonder what that myth could be. I really do.
That's probably something that like someone could just read online, just copy
yeah,
it.
right. If it was like there for you to read and understand, that'd be kind of
No,
nice.
yeah, it would be really nice if it was just
Yeah.
in this book. Actually, it would have been great, a great addition.
No,
Well, I think to kind of build upon that idea a little bit and kind of bring back the concept of art as revolt. He has two lines here that I really liked. It says, "The work of art is born of the intelligence's refusal to reason the concrete. It marks the triumph of the carnal." And then later on in the next page, it says, "If the world were clear, art would not exist." In a
And
weird,
that was a
I
bar.
love
yeah,
I
that. I
wrote that
very much
down.
agree with
bar,
that.
I'm in bar.
Yeah.
spire.
No, that's. I think that's very, and like it really ties that just like everything just tied in. Honestly, it's like like this is absurd. I mean, like creating this is meaningless, but in revolt to the absurd, I'm still going to create because I want to try to replicate or understand or whatever, but maybe even just create for the sake of creating, you know?
Experiencing and I'd say describing your experiences through art. Yeah,
Yeah, and
that's
that's
what
Mm.
I
he
was
says
saying again.
that
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a little bit lower
Not to
to
explain, but to describe.
yes, a little bit above actually. That relationship is good when the work is but a piece cut out of experience. So
Hmm.
basically saying that exactly like you're trying to replicate something out of experience, and that is absurd because you can't fully create it. And also at the same time, it's a revolt. And I think that's kind of his entire idea with the art is just the reason that one can create such a great piece of art while being the absurd is because they fully understand what it means to create this thing. And I think he talks about it like maybe a little bit towards the end or somewhere. But like because of that, it's almost like they're putting more effort into it because they know how crazy it is. So they want to like almost in a way do it better, like try to explain as much as they can in a sense, even though they
Yeah.
know they can't. And it's like a futile effort. But because it's futile, they're going to try to like work even harder at it. And
It's
yeah,
it's kind of like the actor in that way, where it's like there's this contradictory reality that you're trying to like reason with in your own world, and it's exciting to go explore that reality because while you're exploring it, you get to live in that reality. You get to the
Nietzsche.
Nietzsche, the Nietzsche quote where he says, "Art and nothing but art. We have art in order to not die of the truth." Um, I think in some ways, like you use that art to experience a world that doesn't align with your own, uh, not just to escape from the reality that you have in your own, but also to invite those ideas in some way and see if they can change the world that's in front of you. They can take you further away from the truth because, as we know in absurd thought, um, the truth is evil because it doesn't really exist. Um, and I think that it's kind of summed up in this one line, and I'm dipping a little bit into Karloff here, but it adds to my point. It says, existence is illusory and it is eternal. So it's kind of like, if we go all the way back to the actor, where their existence is who they are, and we see them as someone pretending to be the character, but for that moment, they are that character, and as such, they are essentially living their life. But yeah, I think that escape is in a way a revolt against the truth, which is one of the core tenets of absurd thought, right? um
And that's like, you know, creating, right? It's like
yeah.
you're not recreating reality exactly. You're it's again, you know, it's not exact. You're in a way kind of trying to escape. And I think that's what he says, like why it's so hard to create an absurd work, because an absurd work is like not escaping in a sense, right? It's writing something that or creating something that is literally absurd. Like it has nothing to do with any extra meaning or eternal meaning. It's just pure earthly flesh, flesh and blood. And that is what I think he says an absurd work is, or is trying to say it is, and why it's impossible because, you know, we mime, we try to mime
Mhm.
this life, the absurd. Well, okay, so in the appendix, okay,
Oh, he can't help himself.
so
He
so in the
can't help
appendix,
himself.
what he does is I'm just gonna do a
Let it
really
rip,
quick
Howie.
thing.
Let it rip.
Yeah,
What he
let us
does is
know.
so there's this guy named let me get his name real quick. Kafka, okay?
Kafka. Yeah.
And Kafka has what he initially describes as an absurd work. He calls one of his works an absurd work. It's called The Trial. And in The Trial, basically what happens is that there's this the main character, he is being judged. He's like going to court and all this stuff, but he has no clue what's happening. He doesn't understand anything. And all the meanwhile, he's still reading his paper, walking around, just doing everyday tasks and things. And then at the end of it, two guys come in, they take him away, and then they like, not to get disclaimer, not to get graphic here on purpose. They come in and they like slit his throat. Okay. And but right before that happens, he says, like a dog, the main character. Okay. And it's like that's that. And he describes that as a work, like a pure absurd work, because it's just absolutely, it's just this guy living his everyday life. Meanwhile, there's like this is like his life is being judged and then eventually taken at the same time. But this guy, like he knows that's like he knows stuff is going on, right? He knows this is happening, but he's still living his everyday life. And that is what he considers to like be how you live in the absurd. Is that idea of it's that contrast between just doing normal things, like still living your life and doing all this stuff that you're working for, but then at the same time knowing that this is going on, that you are in a sense kind of being judged, maybe not, but then
But there are
eventually
things outside your
dying.
control, right, that
I
can
think
dramatically affect your life.
Yeah.
he specifically mentions that with, I'm not going to pull up exactly, but he mentions things about lucid thought. I think that's a pretty big it's one of the big concepts in that I got from the very first couple of pages from the
Hmm.
chapter.
Yeah, it's the
And
idea of like being aware,
hmm
right?
being lucid in your thoughts. But
To kind of, I guess, get to my end conclusion here is that this absurd work was actually in Camus' point of view an analogy for Kafka, the author, and kind of just everyone living their everyday life. Like this is some like kind of like how just mentioned, like someone just living their life, and but Kafka personally dealing with this like anxiety and depression and stress of like I am like eventually going to like it's going to be decided upon that I'm going to die, and it's just that's what absurd work is. I guess what I'm trying to say. That's what he thinks absurd work is.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's absurdity in itself. The absurd
Exactly.
situation is, that I'm either going to live or die, and other people are deciding whether or not I can live. So I'm
Yeah.
just going to go ahead and do my normal routine that I'm comfortable with. In face of absurdity and revolt to absurdity, I'm going to go ahead and just do my normal thing, and then I die.
Yeah.
It's absurdity in itself.
It's also
yeah,
very interesting. I'm just going to say this one thing I have to talk about because Kafka also writes another book about how the main character is now searching for the eternal, um,
Mm.
and how he never finds it. Instead, he settles for deifying in a sense, probably the absurd in our terms. And it's also Camus suggesting Kafka's journey as he writes. And it's just very interesting how I was actually going to I was going to bring this discussion up, but we don't have to because it's not part of this actual main part. But how like everyone who writes and Camus literally says this in the appendix too, but it's interesting how everyone who writes about like an absurd journey or like the absurd ends up taking the leap to the eternal or deification.
Mm.
And
Kirillov is like a character that does everything you kind of just described, where he doesn't write in the absurd, but he thinks in the absurd, and then he makes the leap to deification, and then he draws the final conclusion, which is again what this book has always been about suicide. And so it's kind of interesting to see, since this book was essentially meant to tell me why I shouldn't kill myself.
in the face of
And then
everything being meaningless.
he then tries his best to present a pretty compelling argument of why I should. Um, and I think that like we'll touch on this when we get to the end, but I think that kind of comes into this is my touch on this idea because he mentions this before. Um, but I like this. He says, "Indeed, it is not so much identical conclusion that prove minds to be related as the contradictions that are common to them." And I think in a lot of ways, the characters in this book and in other absurd works are nothing like the creators that made them, but their contradictions are the same. And in some ways, I think these characters are meant to kind of explore different conclusions to be drawn from the same contradictions. And I think that's part of why they're important, and also maybe part of what makes it an absurd work. Because how can somebody who thinks this way have created a character who thinks this? How could Camus, who opens this up by telling us, don't kill yourself, create a character that explains why it's actually logical to do exactly that?
Dude,
That's
but
absurd.
he does get there, but he also says, like, there are those who don't do that because they feel that. I'm quoting here
Yeah, what does
for
that mean?
listeners. I, maybe we don't get there just yet.
Yeah,
Maybe
we gotta
let's
explain
warm up a
Kirillov
little bit
first.
here.
We're talking a lot about
Yeah,
him.
but I just wanted to bring that up. Logic, right, is like, oh, I'm going to commit because I'm not just going to bend to the will of whatever has brought me into this life, whatever like
Mhm.
fate has in store for me. I
The
want to make
revolt.
my own decisions. I want to like screw that guy. I'm not, I'm not just going like suffer for his comedy, right?
Mhm.
And so at first he's like that, right? He's like, okay, no, I'm gonna do that, but he doesn't end up actually doing it for that reason. He comes back to that conclusion of he knows, but he feels that God is necessary, that he must exist. But Kirillov knows that he does not and cannot exist. And because of that feeling for him, he ends up realizing not out of revenge. Not as like, this guy is bringing me into existence because for me to suffer or whatnot, but because there is no guy anymore, right? He's just here. And so out of revolt for just being here,
He says he wants to kill himself to become God.
right,
And
yeah,
I
out of
the
revolt. Yeah,
roundabout way
that's
that
what it comes to.
he went at that was
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
love it. If
whole
God does
yeah.
not exist, Kirillov is God. If God does not exist, Kirillov must kill himself. Kirillov
to
must
become
therefore
God.
kill himself to become God. The
Yeah.
logic is absurd, but it is what is needed. If
Yeah, and
But
at
God
it
does
first I
not
didn't
says
really
exist, I
get
am
it.
though,
God.
At first I didn't really get it because I think the big leap for me is if God does not exist, then like killing yourself makes you God, right? And I think I think the way it made sense to me, I don't know if he really explained this very well, but it's like you can see God, and this is uppercase G, right? But he refers to himself as lowercase g, which I also think is interesting. Um, you can see God as like this creator, this person this divine being who makes choice in a way, right? And if God does not exist, a very quick conclusion you can draw is kind of that everything isn't really decided by you, that it's entirely random, that you just exist. Like there is no reasoning. There's no good reason, no reason that you can find peace with in the absurd without a God, right? So then by killing yourself, you then assert like
I have control.
I'm making the decision
Yeah.
now. I'm controlling my life. I'm going to decide when this ends. To back to your uh, point earlier, Connor, but on the part that Howie brought up with the appendix, the concept of part of the absurdity is like moving on in your day to day life, even though you know that when you die is not up to you. Kirillov is going, well, now it is. Like I get to make that decision now.
Mhm.
I've now like escaped the absurd and become God in that way, right?
He has
Yeah, I
control
get
over
his
life.
reasoning. Yeah,
Um,
it's just it's weird.
When they talked about that kind of brought me. It made me think of a clip I saw about Carl Sagan, who was answering a question about his own idea of God. I don't know if either y'all. I don't know if y'all seen it. Maybe y'all have, but
I've watched a lot of Carl Sagan.
Yeah, the specific line right here where it says, "If he does not exist, everything depends on us."
Yeah.
That is something that it was almost word for word. Carl Sagan said it, and it was essentially that. That's something. This is basically what he said. Hoping that someone will save us from ourselves, so that we don't have to put our best effort to do it ourselves. Um, Actually, again, going back to you taking domain of your own existence, of your own reality, and being able to fully become as Kirill would say, the czar of your reality. If there is no God, it's entirely dependent on you. You have to now put in your best forth, your best effort to get wherever you want to get to do whatever you want to do, to create whatever absurd creation you want to create. Let's say in the context of this book, um, and I it really resonates with me. I personally really do like taking that outlook in this absurd world that we have now defined thanks to good old Camus. But if there is a God and out of nowhere he exists and he comes saves us, well then at least you did your best. You can be proud of that. And
So here's like the whole bit that I have with like this intelligent suicide or logical suicide. I can't remember the term that was
I
used.
think it's
Logical
logical.
suicide.
yeah,
Yeah.
Logical
logical.
suicide. So it's like if so I grew up Catholic, right?
Mm.
Uh, and like they teach you in the good book and everything that you're
The
you're
good book.
given you're given free will, right? Like God gives you free will. And all your choices are your own and all this good stuff. But then at the same time, God knows everything you're going to do before you do it. So it's like, do you have freedom of choice at that point? Because if he already knows what you're going to do, then are your choices your own, or is that predetermined? You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And then going and saying, oh, well, I'm just going to kill myself because, uh, you know, that way I kill God, so on and so forth, the logical suicide route. If that was already predetermined for you, are you actually killing God, or are you just, you see what I'm saying?
That's an interesting concept. Like you're
Yeah,
not actually becoming God because God already knew you were gonna do that.
yeah, it's like 4D chess that God's playing over. He was like, "Nah, I already planned that, dumbass."
Yeah. Well, okay, you joke about 4D chess, but in a weird way, I think like we're getting kind of off topic here, but I kind of want to engage with the idea that like God knows everything you're gonna do. I think in some
Engage.
ways, the way I've seen it is like God knows everything that you can do, and He can see every path that you could possibly take.
Like he's in the
And
infinite timelines kind of thing.
yeah, and so in that way, yeah, He does know everything you're going to do because He could see it all at once, all at the same time, while still giving you the chance to take the path you want to take, right? And from that point of view, I think that he still wouldn't be becoming God, but he has a better claim to that concept because he still decided to take that path versus the other ideas, right?
It's like, so he mentions something else in the appendix yet again
Look at
about
him
about
two
No,
times
I really
now.
gotta check
so
out the appendix
Two
after
you
times
this.
see
now.
this Oedipus, um he is not aware of his fate, and it's not a good fate for anyone who knows the story, but he is not aware of it at the beginning, and at that point it's just what he considers like a story, right? It's like telling a tale. But the second he becomes aware of his fate, then it becomes a tragedy, because now he is aware of what's going to happen, of, in a sense, like the absurd, the meaninglessness of his actions and all this stuff, because he knows that it's his fate and doesn't really have a choice. And it's kind of like this in a sense where, like let's say there is a God and Kirillov, he does his logical suicide. But like let's say he knew that was his fate, but then like he knew that that was his fate. You know what I mean? And after he like now comes to that realization, and like us also know about, for example, now it's tragic because this
Yeah.
guy is like doing his thing when he knows that at the end of the day, his fate, like what's going to happen is that he is going to have his logical suicide. And it's very interesting how, because we can't know, none of us know, right? But like how once you do know, then it becomes this whole other kind of game in a sense, or like a whole other thing, right?
No,
The
it's
meaning expands.
it's a good point. Like, because if you think about it, this is gonna get kind of dark, but it's like the
Trigger warning.
difference. What was that?
Thanks, David.
Trigger warning.
Trigger warning.
Trigger warning. Yeah. Uh, you have 4 weeks to live, right? Would you rather be told you have 4 weeks to live, or would you rather just go the 4 weeks? You know what I mean?
It's a good
Like,
question.
Hmm.
you see what I'm saying? Because that changes your perspective on your life right then and there. You say you
Yeah.
hear you have 4 weeks to live. What are you going to do with those 4 weeks? Then you have to. Then you're thinking in a time limit. How
Yeah.
how fulfilling is your life going to be for those last 4 weeks?
Even if you
Versus
decide to like fill it with as much as you can, are you really actually getting anything out of it?
exactly quantity versus quality, right? Would you rather just live those 4 weeks like you have been living your entire life and then just bam, die? So it's like going back to what you were saying. It's like knowing the conclusion is almost worse than not knowing. I guess ignorance is bliss kind of thing.
Hmm. Because then it becomes sad in a sense,
Yeah,
like you know what you're going to, you know what you're going to what's going to happen, and so now it's kind of like you're constantly dreading it, but you can't
Mhm.
do anything about it.
I
And
feel I want to throw this out
Well,
there. I
okay.
kind of feel like
it is the absurd.
Albert Camus would say knowing is in turn a part of the absurd and therefore allows you to possibly apply more meaning to those last 4 weeks.
I kind of see what you're saying.
Yeah,
yeah,
but I think he's also saying that we should already be doing this, regardless of the fact of
Yeah.
if we know or
yeah.
not.
Well,
Living,
because we're
yeah,
we do know our fate. We're gonna die,
Everybody
Yes, that's
right?
knows.
true.
Like
Yeah.
We know
that's
that one single
right.
truth.
We
Yeah.
actually know our fate. We don't know how or when, right? And in a weird way, like if we talk about the idea of like fulfilling your life and bringing meaning to it, just to bring us all the way back to like creation as an absurd concept. I want to go back to like experiencing, and I'm not going to wrap up Kirillov, but I'm going to talk about him a little more because the next part is how he talks about how the author of Kirillov, the character, Dostoevsky, is probably of a very similar belief to Kirillov, right? But he goes in a totally different direction. He says, if faith and immortality is so necessary to the human being that without it he comes to the point of killing himself, it must therefore be the normal state of humanity. Since this is the case, the immortality of the human soul exists without any doubt. Where Kirillov went down the path of going like, oh, we need God to survive, but he doesn't, but he can't, because of that, he can't possibly exist. Dostoevsky is like, well, we need God to serve, or we need immortality to exist, the belief of immortality. So therefore, we must be immortal.
Well,
In a way that I think that like it feels like him writing Kirillov is him exploring a different fate from his same thoughts. Like, what if I went down this logical path? What if these were the choices I decided to take with my life? What would that look like? Right? And it's not in a way to kind of like, he's not coming out of this experience going, oh, well, I'm glad I'm not Kirillov. He's coming out of this experience having been Kirillov, just like the actor, right? Which is adding more quantitative experience to his life to take us all the way back to the first chapter, right? And so I think that's kind of the core of what Camus trying to get at with the idea of the absurd creation and why it's important.
okay. I do like that a lot. I do like that a lot.
I do.
Because he also writes, I mean, he says, because Dostoevsky also writes the brothers Karamazov, which, man,
The names.
yeah, they were killing it over there. Like they clearly have a lot to teach me. Um, but he writes about this idea where these kids ask a character, is it true what religion says that we shall rise from the dead and we shall see one another again? And they answer, certainly, we shall see one another again. We shall joyfully tell one another everything that has happened. And it's like the same guy wrote both these guys, you know?
I want to make a big point here with
All
like
right?
talking about that and like
Big point.
a big point because I'm basically bringing context to his second, like taking the leap, like how it
Okay.
seems to be all absurd creators do. And above that part where it said if faith is in immortality is so necessary to the human being, so on and so forth. Above that it says the argument of the one who commits logical suicide, having provoked protests from critics. Dostoevsky, in the following installments of the diary, amplifies his position and concludes thus: the faith in immorality. And so it seems like he wrote this because this like in support of faith because of the critics. And I can't remember where it was, but it says somewhere as well that Tchaikovsky wrote the portion about Kirillov in
Yeah.
like 6 weeks, whereas Ryan this portion about like the argument for the Eternal in like 6 months
Mm-hmm.
because he actually kind of probably did believe in the whole like Kirillov probably was like him in a sense, like his thought, his actual thoughts in a sense, and he wrote this other
Mm.
portion because he received so much criticism. And I
I
think,
disagree.
oh, I'm almost done. I
Yeah,
got one more
you can
thing.
go, but I disagree.
Okay, I got one more thing. Um, and then also, in like the top, the bottom of the paragraph on page 111 of the first paragraph, it says, thus again, Kirillov's pistol rang out somewhere in Russia, but the world continued to cherish its blind hopes. Men did not understand that. And I know we kind of skipped over this a little bit, but Albert Camus mentions how Kirillov committed logical suicide to kind of, in a sense, try to wake everyone up to this idea of like, yo, guys, this is absurd. Like, let's come on, because he wanted he understood that there was a that, and he wanted people to find that in a sense. But
Exchange their hope for divinity.
yeah, and that's like
Yeah.
Tchaikovsky trying to do with his Kirillov portion. But then he hit the critics, and thus Kirillov's pistol rang out somewhere in Russia, but the world continued to cherish its blind hope. They did not understand that, and it's almost like that like got blown away and kind of died because people wanted to not to keep on moving on in a sense
Hoping.
with hoping. Yeah. Anyway, Seth, go ahead.
So, I mean, he says that one commentator correctly pointed out that Dostoevsky is on Ivan's side and that the affirmative chapters took 3 months of effort, where what he called the blasphemies were written in 3 weeks in a state of excitement. There is not one of his characters who does not have the thorn in the flesh, who does not aggravate it or to seek remedy for the sensation or immortality. I think that Kirillov is, so he's saying that he agrees with
Like
that one,
Kirillov.
and I agree. And I think that yes, it's easy to see, oh, he wrote that one in excitement, that must be the one he believes in. I think it's the opposite. I think you excitedly write about the world that's nothing like your own. And then when you're writing about something you actually believe in that reflects your reality, it's a lot harder to put it into words for two reasons. Number one, it's boring. And number two, you want it to be said right, like, because it's you, so you better nail it. I think that it would be much easier for me to write a story about characters that are nothing like me, or maybe characters that go down the paths of thought that I know I don't want to in my own life because I don't like where they would take me, even if I think they're interesting, right? I would personally, in fact, actually, I'm not pondering on this. I know this for a fact as a writer. Okay, the stories that were the most compelling for me to write were characters with that made tragic decisions that I would never make, but were interesting nonetheless. That's why we like tragedies, and in a weird way, why we like comedies, because it's full of people making decisions that a reasonable human would never make, right? Where if you write a book that's actually about like, okay, this character is supposed to represent me and what I believe. Like, I would spend every waking moment making sure that that character is incredibly well spoken and they express all my thoughts like exactly as I want them and they paint it all in the right light, right? Like, I think I would spend way more time on the one that actually reflects my thoughts. Was what I'm trying to say.
I I still am going to disagree. I think
That's fine.
I think you're mistaking time with quality because I don't necessarily think that just because it took 3 months does not mean it has more quality than what took 3 weeks. I mean, for all we know, he could have took 3 months of like 2 hours every day, for example, because he just didn't want to do it.
I
And
didn't
that's three
say that
weeks of
it
every.
was better. I said that he was at least trying to make it better. I agree with you that time does not always equal quality, but it's probably the first thing I'm going to look to invest if I want to make something well.
But I think the reason it took 3 months was because he didn't really believe in the argument, and he was needing to come up with ways to make that argument. Whereas the other one, he fully believed in the argument, and because he fully believed in it, he had a lot of time already spent thinking about it, and that's why he was excited to write it, and that's
There
why
is
he wrote it so
mention.
fast.
I understood that the excitement that he got was him essentially losing the integrity of the absurd that Camus was trying to highlight, it being a difficult thing to write about the absurd and keep the integrity of the absurd.
Because he does say that it is not an absurd work that is involved here, but a work that propounds the absurd problem, suggesting that he doesn't believe that Dostoevsky's
Yes.
writings are absurd.
Yeah, because they're not actually writing about an absurd life, like The Trial, for example, right? You're not writing about this man who's living literally the absurd. Instead, you're writing almost an argument for the absurd, right?
Yeah. You're
Like
writing
what to
about a
do.
man struggling with the
Yeah,
absurd.
yeah, what to do if you face the absurd, too.
Yes.
I mean, he talks about it in Appendix 2 and like in
This
Kafka
guy in the
Next
Third
Book.
appendix
time.
can't stop bringing it up.
He talks about the Kafka's second book in the appendix about the one that like where he takes a leap because he says that a um it's now him trying to come up with an explanation for the absurd, like a solution to the problem in a sense.
Mhm.
The problem was discussed in his first book, which is more so the absurd work, whereas the second one is more of a solution, like what to do. And then he calls that work specifically non-absurd work for that fact. And I think that's the same here. Like that's just the same here. Right.
I might have to take some time after book club to kind of mull on these thoughts for a little
It's
longer.
this
Dude,
is.
it's big. It's a
I'm not
big
gonna
ending.
lie. By the end of this one, I was like, man, maybe I'm a little in over my head. I
Oh
was
yeah,
like
I was feeling like my reading comprehension was not up to par for this one.
it was way worse than Marky Mark. But
It really was.
speaking of, to move us along? Should we get to the final thesis?
God, did
The
we go
final
to
the final
before
final
we move on?
pages, or is there more closing
Anything
thoughts?
else? Yeah, is there anything else anyone wants to talk about with regards to the creator? No.
I
Solid.
I
don't
think
We're-
think
Myth
so
of Sisyphus is
personally.
ready, man. I
All right,
think
Yeah,
Myth of
we're
it's
We
ready.
about
haven't
time we
talked
talked
And I
about
think
about
that
it.
in a
David
long
should open
time.
us up.
Yes, David, please tell us, what do you think about the Myth of
Yeah,
Sisyphus?
what's the myth?
Oh
What
man,
do you
you
think
know,
about?
I read this and I was blown away with what I read because it was just so full of ideas and so full of okay. No, but in reality,
What do you think it's about?
Yeah, what do you
what
think,
do I
Scott?
think that the myth of Sisyphus is about? I'm
Without
gonna have
having
to
read it.
yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna have to write down some things to really get my thoughts in kind of
in
gather all my
order.
thoughts. But
Yeah.
yeah. Myth of Sisyphus. Well, I know the actual story of the myth of Sisyphus. The
Yeah.
the
So how do you think it applies to like everything we've been reading?
Yeah, so like what is it? What is it? Why is he talking about it?
why is he talking about good old Sisyphus?
David pulls out
It's
the.
rock.
I really liked when I rolled the boulder up the hill, man. That was cool.
I do remember that falls down once he goes to the top.
Oh, when it fell down, man, that killed me.
Dude, I
Okay.
felt so sad after that.
And then it did it a second time. Oh, I was dead.
Oh man,
Dude,
I was
and
dead, dude.
that third time really got me, man. I
It
really
was too
didn't think it was
much.
gonna fall down. I was expecting him to get all the way up forever.
I thought he had it.
I
But
really
no,
thought he
okay.
would
I
get it
mean,
this time.
the myth of Sisyphus to me, I'm going to say obviously in this sentence, but it's obviously a representation of the absurd, a representation of the meaninglessness that is a part of the human condition that we've established with the absurd, right? And
Mhm.
the action of rolling that goddamn boulder up that goddamn hill for an eternity is meaningless.
Yes.
Hmm.
And therefore allows for any meaning to be applied to it. And in this sense, Sisyphus, one can expect Sisyphus is happy
You
with
stole
being.
that. You stole that.
He,
What do
With
you mean? I
he
don't know. I don't know
cheated.
what you're
He
talking about.
cheated. Just so,
He
just so we
cheated. He
know.
cheated. He
No,
read lessons.
but I did read that. I don't. Of all the sentences I had to read, it had to be the last paragraph, or of all the paragraphs I had to read from that, it had to be the
Yes,
last.
because you don't need
Mhm.
the context of the
No
Yeah,
actual
of course.
context.
The
leading up
What?
lessons
to
has
it.
everything you need.
He summed it all up perfectly. TLDR, man. But no, it's to apply it to the entire book is his act of rolling that boulder for eternity, being a meaningless endeavor, knowing how the conclusion is going to end, knowing what's going to be on the other side of the boulder, which is just it rolling back down as it does, allows him to apply whatever meaning he would want to his actions, and therefore could, let's say, I don't know, revolt against that absurdness of rolling that boulder and being able to be happy with his what's the word, monotonous
Monotonous?
actions.
Monotonous action.
There we
Yeah.
go. Thank you. His monotonous actions. And that's what I would assume is a part of the myth of Sisyphus.
Bro, he
Well,
wishes he read that. He
I
wishes
know.
he read it so badly.
He wishes he was struggling.
He
Hey, I'm
is
not gonna lie though.
not terrible.
Not too far off.
Yeah, not too
Not
bad.
too far off.
I think you have a general idea, but as one who did not read the entire chapter, you are missing some context. And I think the biggest context here is that
Mhm,
Sisyphus, well, like the example Camus gives is that Sisyphus basically was like, hey, let me test my wife. After, like I died, I'm test like he talked to Pluto or Hades, and was like, let me test my wife. If she does this, then I'm gonna come back and I don't know, like I don't remember, but that's not the point. The point
mhm,
is
mhm,
that he came back and he was like, wait a second, this is nice. It's nice to live. And what he did was he just like sat on like a beach or something and just enjoyed his life, like just chilling. And then they eventually, brought him back, and like that's why he's being punished because he
mhm.
was supposed to not do that. He like took advantage of this life granted back to him, and just was just chilling when he was he was supposed to be dead,
Yeah.
and so they punished him for that.
Which is kind of
And
funny that Pluto was like, yeah, you can go back just to be mean to your wife. Like that's chill. That's a great reason.
and
You know?
then just like,
Like
and he gets angry at him for like
he's
being
like, why didn't you
staying.
come back? What
Like,
the heck? I thought you
Dude,
liked it
why
down
weren't you
here.
mean to your wife? What the
why
fuck,
didn't you
dude?
want to come
That's you.
back?
Like you were supposed to berate her.
You're supposed to want to come back right after.
Yeah.
But that is the context behind Sisyphus and his absurdness is that he remembers and he really enjoyed living. And
The
so
second
as
time.
that boulder rolls down, part of his journey is that he thinks back on that. And I'm going to open the floor to anyone else who wants to continue off that context.
Well, I mean,
Nostalgia. Didn't he mention nostalgia in this book
yeah, a
much
little
He
bit,
earlier?
yeah.
does, yeah.
So that was one point that I thought was really interesting that Camus said was that he thinks that Sisyphus was at his saddest whenever it was the beginning. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Do you remember
Yeah.
that?
Yes.
I think that's a really interesting point. Like
At
that
the
first
beginning of
hundred
him rolling
times.
the. Oh, okay,
Like
Yeah.
okay.
the
Yeah,
boulder
like the
rolled down.
first 100 times that he rolls the boulder up and down the hill, he was at his saddest. But then eventually, you know, the monotony of his daily task of rolling that boulder up the hill just for it to fall down. There's a comfort in that, I suppose.
Yeah, he says, I love this line. He says, all Sisyphus's silent joy is contained therein. His fate belongs to him. His rock is his thing. It's
That's
like
his thing,
His
man.
thing.
it's his
That's his
thing. It's
thing.
like I know this is a rock, but it's my rock, and I'm pushing it up here, and that's what I do. I'm out
Wait.
here pushing the fuck out of this rock.
He gets
Right?
to push the rock, and he gets to decide when it rolls back down.
Dude, he gets to push the rock.
Like, come
my gosh,
on,
you
dude. He
guys-
gets to
He
push the
gets to
rock.
push the rock.
He gets to push the rock.
But that all is well.
It's
You know,
all is well. You can find a lot of fulfillment in your day to day. You know, like just because you've been confronted with the absurd doesn't mean you have to die for divinity. You can enjoy the life you've given. Can I wrap up? Because that's where I'm
I
going.
think we are at the point.
Philosophical suicide instead of
Yeah,
logical.
you don't have to end it all. You can enjoy the day to day because life has many joys, even if they don't make sense. The fact that they don't make
Or have
sense
meaning.
is part of what makes it so fun. And that's why the struggle itself towards the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. One must imagine Sisyphus happy.
Dude, you come up with that yourself? That was a pretty good line.
That's a really good way to
Well,
end it.
maybe if you read the book,
Crazy.
you would know, David.
Dude, Seth,
Damn it, I wish I read the book.
Waiting for an hour and a
like
half.
that part. I also like the portion where he talks about like Sisyphus returning toward his rock. That portion where he's like,
Walking down.
yeah, when man glances backward over his life. And at slight pivoting, he contemplates that series of unrelated actions which becomes his fate. Created by him, combined under his memory's eyes, and soon sealed by his death. Thus convinced of the wholly human origin of all that is human, a blind man eager to see, who knows that the night has no end, he is still on the go. The rock is still rolling. I thought that portion was pretty
Like
pretty
there is
hard.
no sun without shadow and it is essential to know the night.
Well,
Right.
yeah, that, but like also knowing that like you're blind, man, you want to see.
Yeah.
Like you know that the night has no end. You know that you won't see.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know that that's meaningless, but you're still going for it. You're still doing it. And that's like Sisyphus, man. Like he knows that that rock is or that boulder is never going to actually reach the top, but he's still doing it, and all with a smile on his face. You know,
Legend. Straight legend.
because he knows the journey is good enough.
Is it
Yeah.
is
And
it
it's
almost
time for
like
us to
Almost
oh, I
bad.
was gonna
no, you go
finish-
first.
finish off a little bit. Is it almost like that struggle, like y'all said, he doesn't want to be divine. That struggle gives him a little glimpse to the physical realm, to the just human aspect of life, the human
Yeah.
condition. That struggle is what it is.
Yeah. It's not just immortality. It's still work. Right.
You still gotta
Just
grind.
finding meaning in the struggle.
Gotta grind.
Beautiful.
Gotta
I
grind.
wish I would have read the
Great.
book.
Create everyone.
You
so
still
basically,
can.
the only thing anyone should take from this book is to go create something. Like
Yeah.
how we are content creators. How we
And what a good segue.
and how we are about
Speaking of
spinning
content,
this wheel.
Speaking of content, wheel.
All right, guys.
Okay.
If you want to see the wheel, you have to follow us on Spotify. Give us a 5-star rating.
Woo.
Simply on Apple Podcasts, and then like
Wheel is for
comment,
Patreon
subscribe on
members
YouTube.
only.
Yeah, they only get to see the special portion. So make sure you are supporting the podcast.
Shoot, eventually we could even do when we get big enough, we can do a little raffle.
Win. I like
Pull out
that.
a Patreon, pull out a Patreon
That'd be
name.
kinda
and
cool,
They can
actually.
spin the wheel.
That would be cool.
that'd be cool.
that'd be
Yeah.
Or they can like suggest a book as well.
Yeah,
Like they said,
book suggestions would be cool.
That'd be cool.
sick. Well,
Anyways,
for now,
time to spin.
wheel time.
Or you spin it. Any final thoughts on this book? Anything that y'all might change about your day to day, or maybe not change, but just have more in
That's a good
context
point.
during your day to day?
I think I'm gonna be a little less sad about the existential state of the world around me. I think that is something that like bothers me a lot.
I am
And
right there with you.
it, not that it shouldn't, I should still be aware of it, but also understand that it doesn't impact, like, well, I won't say it doesn't. I'm in a very strong position of privilege to say that it doesn't, but that even that it does, I can still live a life that has meaning and fulfillment.
The small victories of life is what it's gonna give it its spark.
Yeah.
Like, unironically, it does motivate me to create or like do something in a sense that is adding to the world, even though it's meaningless. Like, and that's the other thing too, is it's also forcing me now, in a sense, to try to keep in mind the meaninglessness, the absurd,
Mhm.
and kind of keep it in perspective almost. And so, I mean, those are really the two main things that I'm taking away from this. Is like, it honestly makes me want to try to write an absurd work, but
I was actually about to say it almost makes me personally want to try to have an absurd work as well. Maybe not in the writing, not writing because that's not really my forte, but an absurd work nonetheless. Something that I know, something that I really make out of just the pure aspect of making it.
There we go.
Oh. Also, real fast before we do spin the wheel and before we finish off the closing statements as well, one thing that we didn't mention that I kind of saw was really interesting in the final absurd creation was his mention of Jesus and
Oh yeah,
Christianity,
oh right,
as
and that we
the
didn't get
man
to.
god versus the god
Yeah,
man.
the man God versus the God man, and I guess I got caught up in all the other wonderful thoughts that I
Mhm.
completely forgot about this as well. But now I'm thinking back to it, and I think that was there was some meat and
there's a
potatoes there
very
too. You know,
interesting
Well, I think
portion.
if this book told me anything, it's that, man, like 90 minutes is not enough, guys. We're always going to be leaving something on the table
we
because
really are.
No,
there's like
but
hours and hours of wisdom and ideas packed into
Dude,
these
there really
books.
are.
So
We have to pay.
dude,
I need to come up with more
that
idea
is for
boards.
members only. All right, we cut off at 90 minutes. That's your VIP version. After 90 minutes, you get to see our
okay,
final takes. All right,
yeah,
guys?
fire,
Beautiful.
cool.
Well, I mean, Connor, any final regards? I know you said you've read this book too beforehand, so I'd like to
Yeah.
Yeah,
think
how did
about
you
what.
like to revisit?
Yeah, I want to know more about your
So
revisit,
yeah, no,
especially because you're
after
in different aspects of your life now too.
yes,
Very different
100%.
positions.
Um, I just, after reading this, I do kind of appreciate the grind now. Um, on average, working 28 days out of the month right now.
If anyone's on the grind right now, it's you, Connor.
It is you,
I've been
man.
pushing that
Yeah, it's
boulder,
wild.
man.
Yeah.
That's a nice boulder. I got that shit spit shined and
That is.
everything.
He's got it smoothed out.
It's
Drew
his
some
boulder,
designs
man.
on there
He
too.
sleeps with that
Really
thing.
made it your own.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I'm really starting to appreciate the grind. Like every day that I go in, it is kind of like this is my boulder. Like I go in, I'm like, oh, no cool call. I'm fucking excited. I can't wait to figure out what this is.
Mhm.
Or, quoted work, my name's on this. I'm gonna make this the best damn quoted work I've ever seen.
Hell yeah.
It's that's
Let's
something that I
go.
kind of did lose whenever like after I read it the first time. I think like life just ends up coming along and then you just start dreading certain aspects of life and all that other stuff and then the stress too. That's why that whole bit where he said like the first 100 times that Sisyphus rolled the boulder up the hill was like the worst. I kind of feel the same about like whenever big changes happen in your life, like it's always like the beginning of it is the worst, of course.
Yeah.
But like once you get used to the grind of it, then it becomes nice in a way. It kind of becomes satisfying if it is work that we're talking about. Um, but yeah, I mean, just big points to take away from the book is just love the absurdity of life. Revolt against the meaninglessness of life. Um, hate death. Love
Yeah.
living. Um,
Yeah.
and live a quality life, not a quantity life.
Fire.
Boom.
Gas.
Which there's something actually I saw in the book, and uh, uh, Connor, have you ever read Nietzsche?
Nietzsche. I've read like a lot of stuff about him
Okay.
and about his works. I've never actually read any of his
Like I
works.
was curious because I saw in the book he makes mention of Superman, like how he compares Kirillov to. He's not really Superman because Kirillov is immature and all this stuff, and like that's like in his conclusion, the logical suicide, which is by the way Albert Camus probably saying the logical suicide is not the correct answer, and but the Superman is actually I believe a reference to Nietzsche's because Nietzsche creates what is called the Uberman or the Superman. And with that said, I hope we get a Nietzsche book. Let me spin the wheel.
All right, let's see.
All right, y'all
Oh boy, oh
can
boy.
y'all can see the wheel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we get a countdown? Countdown for the wheel?
Yeah. Do we want wheel? Wheel, and then you guys go like a little faster, and then like eventually I spin. How do you want to do it?
Wheel.
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 Wheel. Wheel.
Wheel. Wheel.
Wheel,
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 Wheel.
wheel.
Wheel. Wheel. Wheel.
Oh, let's go, let's
Wheel.
go. What do we get? What do we get? What do we get?
Oh.
The
The
Tao
Tao
Te
Te Ching.
That was, I think, one of my
That
recommendations right
was
there.
indeed.
The Tao Te Ching. Okay. Exciting.
Oh, this will be
And
quite
with
a
that,
jump.
yep,
A
shut that
jump
out.
again from the absurd. Maybe not too much though. Hmm.
Oh, it's Taoism. Oh, that's
Yeah.
exciting.
I've always wanted to kind of get more into Taoism, but I've never have. So I thought this was a perfect excuse to put that in there and
So
check it
full
out.
disclaimer, I have read this.
How long
Oh!
is it?
It's really short
Yeah,
actually.
it's a really
Okay,
short read. It's
fire.
not
Like we
that
could
crazy.
maybe do this in one book club.
Oh, we
Yeah,
get to
it's
spin the
only
wheel again next time.
The
The
dopamine
DeLorean's
rush
going
from the
crazy.
wheel.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
Like I actually think it's only 20. Hold on, let me look. I have it right here. Okay. It's like so this book's like a bunch that's why it's so big. It's like a bunch
Okay.
of different Eastern philosophies. The Tao in this book is like 14 pages. So
okay.
14
I'm sure it's like
pages.
about as short in others. Yeah.
Should we get the
I did.
same one that you got, or I mean, we need to make sure we all get the same one,
I
right?
mean y'all probably shouldn't. This is like this has like a bunch of different
The Art of
books.
War.
Oh,
So I mean unless
wait,
you
no.
want
What? I
this,
want that one. That one.
okay.
Just because we're not reading it for book club doesn't mean I don't.
This is the book. The Art of War and Other
How much is
Classics
that?
of Eastern Philosophy.
Good old Art of War. You know, Sun Tzu.
Yeah.
If it looks
Classics of
like you're
Eastern
losing,
thought.
I will say
retreat.
this was a very worthwhile read. If you read the entire thing, it's very worthwhile. I mean, even just one of these, I want to say is worthwhile.
I
But like,
started
it
reading
is
The Art
very
of War a
worthwhile.
while ago, but I never actually finished it. I've kind of
It's
fell
only
off a little
13
bit.
books for the leather bound.
Man, that'd be a nice looking book on my
I'm probably gonna get that one because
library.
I'm also
Dude,
want to
it's like
read The
really
Art of
cool.
War.
Dude,
Okay.
so, well, honestly, one of my
Do we all
favorites
just
was the
want to get that one?
Confucius dialects. Yeah, I mean, yeah, if we all
Yeah,
want
I mean,
to.
why not?
And
I think this one looks cooler on my
It's very
yeah.
bookshelf.
cool. Let me
Send the
grab it
My
link,
again,
Howie.
actually. Let me
bookshelf.
grab it again.
Here's
This is
the link.
the spine. So this is what your bookshelf's gonna be seeing. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah,
front
that's
is also sick.
fantastic.
Other Eastern class.
It's $13 right now, so it's not even that much.
Oh shoot, I'm ordering right now then. Oh my
We're about
god.
to sprout the whole stock right here.
I'm
It like goes back up in price because they bought the last one that was on sale.
I'm excited. I'm excited to get into
2
Taoist.
We don't
days.
even have to like think about this. I mean, hey, so just read the Tao Te Ching. That's the
Yeah, I
assignment.
might as well just read the whole thing,
Just read
right?
the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Have one book club session on it. And I'm glad. All right, I'm happy with that. I read that it was a good introduction. It wasn't everything all at once, but
It's not
really
like the
good
Tao Holy
introduction.
Book, essentially.
I'm
It's just
actually
like a.
glad we're reading this because it was I remember when I read it, I like was struggling really hard to understand it. So maybe
Okay.
this
Okay.
time
So
that'll
now
be
we
better.
get. Honestly, this specific episode I feel really good about because when I finished this book, I was like, I feel like I have an idea, but I'm still really confused.
Mhm.
And I feel like after this discussion, I understand it a lot better now. We all kind of got to
Yeah,
dig into it, and I appreciate that. Thanks,
It's
guys.
really good.
that's
I
why it's
love our
so
conversations
nice.
because it's so good for bouncing ideas off.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Thank you for listening to today's book club. If you want to support us, please feel free to leave a rating and review on wherever you get your podcasts. We are on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, so either one of those would be great help. Also, leave a follow. That'd be amazing too. If you're listening or watching on YouTube, please leave some comments, like the video, subscribe. Another way you can help support us is we are Amazon affiliates, which means you'll see in the description wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast on the episode, there will be a link to the book that we are currently covering, or if we spin the wheel to select our next book, you'll also see a link to the next book that we will be covering as well. And these links are to the books that the exact same books that we are reading during the podcast. So, if you're going to read the book anyways, it'd be a great help if you could use the link. It's going to be no additional cost to you, and we do get a small uh, percentage of the proceeds. So you get a book, and we also get a benefit. It's a win-win, honestly. And even if you don't get, like, even if you don't use the link, I still recommend getting the book. One, because it helps to read what we're reading, so you can kind of have some more context into what we are discussing, as well as having your own book. We're not covering everything in the book on the podcast. That's impossible to do in an hour and a half, and so it allows you to get some really nice information in there that again we just can't cover. And it also allows you to annotate your own book. So, if years down the line, you can kind of come back to the book, kind of remind yourself on the lessons you learned. And, if you reread it again, you can have almost like a conversation with yourself back in time too. It's really an investment to, I think, read and buy books. So again, thank you for listening to Book Club and can't wait to catch you in the next one.